was the worst betrayal in Scottish history? I've got a suggestion for you. Let me take you to Sutherland Castle for a story few people who come here ever hear. If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen and ring the notification bell to be told when I upload new videos. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. I want to tell you about the betrayal of a people through the story of one man. And to do that, let me take you to the Argyll and Sutherland Highlander Museum. Now, before I start, I don't want this story to be disturbed by an advert in the middle, so let me just remind you that I am a tour guide, and I've got 2 group tours in 2026. If you're into Jacobites, then I have the ultimate Jacobite tour in April, and in September it's my big bumper 11-day birthday tour. If you're in any doubt how fantastic they'll be, then check out the itinerary for the tours on my website and the reviews on TripAdvisor. I'll leave links for both top right and in the description below. Or email alexis@scotlandhistorytours.co.uk. You could say the history of the regiment that we're going to talk about today started in 1799. When the French Revolution kicked off, Britain wanted to secure the power balance in Europe and prevent revolutionary ideas arriving on these shores. God forbid, overthrowing monarchs and nobility, the very idea. No, there was nothing for it. Ordinary folks would need to be mobilised to go and fight for the safety of nobility. When Britain started arming, France declared war. As well as his military career, Major General William Weems followed his father as MP for Sutherland. He also got the job of recruiting men from the Sutherland estates of his cousin Elizabeth, Countess of Sutherland, to raise new regiments to protect the nobility from the French. The 93rd Regiment of Foot, the Sutherland Highlanders. So, in early 1799, he set about the job. Now, fencibles were regiments of volunteers that were raised from time to time to backfill troop requirements on the home front when enlisted regiments were abroad. It should be simple to get men recruited from the recently disbanded Sutherland fencibles. But it turns out, going off and fighting the French on foreign soil wasn't nearly as popular as Weems thought. He held enlistment events where he himself paid for huge quantities of snuff in silver-mounted snuff troughs and ample quantities of whisky. The idea was that local blokes gathered together and anyone who stepped forward to snort from the communal snuff box and take a dram of whisky had his name written in the attestation book, the King's bounty money slapped in his hand, and boom! You're in the army now. But in Kildonan, the men rejected the tobacco and the snuff malt as luxuries that they neither used nor trusted. Weems had misjudged the population. There was resistance. Parents objected to their sons being sucked into the military. They were needed at home to work the land. When would they come back? And with what disabilities? Would they return at all? How could they trust authorities who, even till after their sons had been born, had banned the very wearing of tartan? On the 24th of April 1799, 2 things happened. Weems was told that he could extend enlistment to any county in Scotland, and his cousin Elizabeth would exert her influence to fill the regiment. Elizabeth, Countess of Sutherland. She offered parents improved leases on their farms. Their tenancies and livelihoods would be secure if they just got their sons to enlist. In a written public appeal, she promised her tenantry my protection in all time coming and provision for their sons on their return. On her behalf, representatives summoned men from whole parishes to stand in rank and file for estate factors' recruitment meetings. We know that in Far, a ballot system was used. Each man had to draw from coloured balls. If you drew black, you were expected to enlist. Here's an example of a personal guarantee issued to the MacLeod family at Dunrobin Castle on the 24th of July, 1799. Considering that William MacLeod, your brother, has voluntarily enlisted himself as a soldier in the Sutherland Highlanders, now raising by General Weems, I bind and oblige myself to put Donald MacLeod in possession of 10 merks of rent in the lands of Rincreich and continue you therein, also to continue your father in his present possession of Leadmore. Signed, John Fraser, Estate Factor. It was a quid pro quo. Enlisting a son guaranteed your tenancy. One man who'd never been a Fencibles volunteer, so who would undoubtedly have faced the snuff and whisky ritual, the pressure of estate influence and the promises made to families, was a tailor from Rogart called William Douglas. He was enlisted at the age of 23 on the 16th of October 1799. 5 foot 4 inches, grey eyes, black hair, initial rank, private. Service term, unlimited. The records tell us that he marched from Skull with Strathnaver contingent down to Inverness, accompanied by pipes, the Jew's harp and Gaelic song. The 93rd Regiment of Foot, the Sutherland Highlanders, was born. By the end of the year, Weems had enlisted 30 sergeants, 23 corporals, 13 drummers and 331 privates from Sutherland. By August 1800, more than 650 assembled at Inverness. 6 years later, with Napoleon in power, Britain wanted to seize the Cape Colony in modern South Africa from some Dutch blokes. You see, they were allies of the French. Plus, I'm pretty sure William Douglas and his Sutherland pals thought that securing the Cape meant control of the strategic route to India. So the 93rd took that long sea voyage to the southern tip of Africa, and a brief but decisive Battle of Blouberg that secured the colony for Britain. And then 8 years of garrison duty on a continent far away from Sutherland. The regiment gained a reputation for discipline, sobriety and religious seriousness. They formed their own Presbyterian-style congregation, and these items preserved in the museum here were used in the Presbyterian services. I'm told that the Sutherland Highlander garrison of the Cape Colony is the historical root of the United Presbyterian Churches of Southern Africa. But back at home, things weren't going too well. Almost as soon as they marched south to Inverness, there was pressure on Sutherland tenants over land and rents. We know that that's why some of our men joined up. And then in 1811, the notorious Patrick Sellers was appointed to run the Sutherland estate. By 1813, groups of tenants were protesting eviction by showing recruiting letters, like the one written to the MacLeods promising tenancy in return for their sons serving in the 93rd. Patrick Sellers said they no longer applied. But William Douglas's time in the Cape was coming to an end. The tailor from Rogart, who'd enlisted as a private, was now a corporal. 14 years after he'd marched south to Inverness. It was surely time to head home, right? No yet, Willie. You see, across the Atlantic, trouble had brewed between Britain and a new country called the United States of America. The detail's way too much for a couple of sentences here, but Britain wanted to impose a blockade on France and prevent the USA stealing more Indian land. And Americans thought that they should be entitled to trade with whom they liked and expand west as they pleased, irrespective of their northern neighbours, who at this time were still the United Kingdom. And so William Douglas and his Sutherland comrades, now regarded as hardened veterans, took another long boat trip across the Atlantic. This time, they were wearing trews. They reached the Gulf Coast in late 1814. They had to face the painful slog to New Orleans, marching through mud, swamps, and over-enthusiastic jazz musicians to get there. The plan was to take New Orleans, control the Mississippi, and limit American westward expansion. Bizarrely, the battle for New Orleans took place on the 8th of January 1815, 2 weeks after the peace treaty had been signed in Ghent, because it was going to be another 60 years until a Scotsman invented the telephone. I made a video about that. The Americans were behind a secure, well-fortified 7-foot earthwork with a wide rampart. In front of that was the Rodriguez Canal, creating a moat with a killing zone on the other side. The British had to advance over waterlogged fields of sugarcane stubble and irrigation ditches in the face of withering enemy fire. If you're thinking that sounds scary, you're right. If you're thinking it'll be even worse when they have to set down the canal crossing equipment and then scale the earthwork and ramparts on ladders, then you'd be right. If you're thinking what would be really bad is if the commanders had forgotten to provide them with fording equipment and ladders, then you've probably already heard about the disaster that was the Battle of New Orleans. As Corporal William Douglas stood before dawn, looking at the 600 yards that he had to walk between him and the defensive rampart, he knew what awaited him. He and the 93rd moved forward on the British left under heavy American fire. He must have watched men crumple round him as limbs were ripped off and bodies fell. Yet knowing he could be next, and his comrades kept formation. His troops were decimated and commanders killed. Worse, the commanders who'd forgotten essential equipment also failed to give instructions to their junior officers in the event of their deaths. In the chaos following the death of senior officers, regiments to the right of the Sutherlands crumbled, but the Highlanders stood steadfast in place, facing withering American fire. They followed the standing instruction. In the absence of orders, stand fast. William Douglas did. His men around him literally tumbled like ninepins. No orders came, either to advance or retreat. They maintained formation in that open field of cane stalks. One American eyewitness watched Douglas and the other Highlanders and described the refusal to break ranks, even in the face of carnage, as an act of unbelievably cool, determined bravery that was discipline beyond belief. Finally, the senior surviving general ordered a withdrawal, and Douglas and what was left of the 93rd fell back, marching with parade ground precision, leaving 3/4 of their comrades dead or wounded. All 2 weeks after the British and Americans had already agreed a peace. I'm sure Corporal William Douglas could tell you what happened to the regimental colours. All we know is that regimental records note that one of the original colours, like these, is missing from the preserved set. We're told that as their Lieutenant Colonel Dale lay dying, he begged to be buried wrapped in the regiment's colours. So it was that Corporal Douglas and his comrades watched at the graveside as one of the 93rd's two flags was used as Dale's shroud. That is the fierce loyalty between the Highland soldiers, their regiment, and the people of the land they called home. New Orleans became one of the most famous demonstrations of steadfast conduct of Highlanders in battle. But as Corporal Douglas held his line at New Orleans, the community that he came from was being destroyed. At the very time the 93rd faced enemy fire, flames were rising at home. In Strathneva, 1814 was known as the year of burnings. No tobacco, no snuff, no whiskey, no king's shilling. No memory of Lady Sutherland's promise so easily broken. No care for their sacrifice. Just roofs set alight to make homes uninhabitable as the families of Sutherland made way for sheep. If only they'd put their red coats on the backs of sheep. In May 1815, when the Sutherland Highlanders arrived back in the British Isles, the year of burnings was over. Men who'd earned accolades from the Napoleonic battlefields to the American bayous were welcomed with the double injustice of life and limb lost under incompetent leadership and family evictions, fuelled by indifference from the very landlady on whose behalf they'd gone to war. This is a picture of one of the very townships cleared. William Douglas must have felt lucky as he looked round. In an older Sutherland, an out-of-work, disabled ex-soldier might scrape by on charity or by living off relatives. But with families themselves diminished by eviction from homes destroyed and a community that no longer existed, what could they spare? Some veterans took whatever work they could find. Accounts mention ex-soldiers working as occasional labourers, schoolmasters, or ironically, rent collectors for the estate. Angus MacDonald of Rogat came home with a musket ball lodged in his leg. He found work as a school teacher. The musket ball was a constant reminder of New Orleans. And yet, he was wont to say that the pain of the wound is nothing compared to the pain of seeing Strathneva in ashes. Others emigrated from the land they fought for. Lieutenant William Sutherland, who had led a company at New Orleans, took several of his kin and resettled in Nova Scotia, where he became fountain elder of a Presbyterian church made up mostly of cleared Sutherland families. And Corporal William Douglas, he remained in service until 1823. He was Sergeant William Douglas by the time he was discharged. He was given 16 shillings and sixpence in discharge pay, and it said that he intended to live in Dublin. But we find him 10 years later living in Jersey. He died on the 20th of June 1858 without returning to Sutherland. Where could he return home to? William Douglas, recruited under feudal pressure and the Countess of Sutherland's promises of family protection, fought for Britain on 2 continents, stood under fire at one of the battles that defined loyalty and stoic resistance of Highland soldiers, came back to find his homeland burned, and died far from Sutherland, in exile from the land that he once served to protect. If this wasn't the worst betrayal, then tell me what was. I've made a series of videos about the Sutherland Highlanders represented in that museum. There's one coming up on screen now. You should watch it. Support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member, or buy me a coffee in the description below. In the meantime, Hummey and Doch is going to be a lamb alive. Cheery and drasta.